This is Kai's 5 Podcast. 5 topics, 5 minutes. Hyper local sports. The Kai's 5 Podcast is presented by WJG Sports. Yeah. What's up, everybody? This is Kai Jones here. Thank you for tuning in to Kai's 5. This is the first episode. This is a new podcast we're going to be doing once a week. We drop every Friday. The concept will be nice and simple for you guys. 5 topics, 5 minutes per topic. And then that's basically it. We discuss everything that is hyper local within the sports world. I'm only keeping it to 5 topics. In the past, I would give you these long, drawn, felt out, big previews or discussions. And I think over time it would get hard for me to do that on a weekly basis, but I think I can commit to this. So, this is where I'm at. It's going to also be a weekly column that comes onto it on our website at WeJournalGreatSports.com. You can tune in and check in there. We're going to make sure we start posting more of our content there as well, for you guys to keep up with what's going on around the county when it comes to sports. So, our 5 topics, our topic that we're going to talk about today, the overall theme is going to be about football. Obviously, it's football season. Everyone's really excited. Everyone's 0-0. This is the most exciting time of the year because everyone believes at this point in time they can win a championship. They can be a really good team. Even though we know somebody has to be the winner, somebody has to be the loser. So I'm going to be looking at, instead of trying to preview all these teams and things of that nature, I'm going to go straight into just the idea of what are the 5 most interesting storylines heading into this 2025 football season. There are plenty of them, but I picked just 5, mainly keeping it focused on teams as well as looking at some individual situations. So here we go. Here's the first topic. So our first topic, of course, is Clayton. I don't think anyone in the football world could possibly be talking about anything other than these guys here. If you're talking about any team that is in Wayne, Johnston, or Greene County, of course, I've got my timer set here, making sure I don't go over my 5 minutes. So when it comes to Clayton, the big thing is, can they finally reach the top? This is a team has lots of talent returning. You talk about your top rusher and your top passer coming back in Aiden Smalls, the NC State commit. You're talking about your top sack person coming back, and one of your top tacklers coming back as well, and Keyshawn Stansel. And then you talk about Crumel coming in as well at your safety. He's your top guy for interceptions. He's being recruited by ACC, SEC, and Big Ten programs. So they've got plenty of talent along the way coming in for them. And I think the big thing for them is Coach Scott Chadwick, actually talked about it in his preview interview with Joko Preps. The fact of the matter is, despite them winning 10 games 2 years in a row, they still have not really won anything. They have made it to the playoffs, and your 3rd round 2 years ago and 2nd round last year. I think for them now, it's the time where you have to, if there's a year to win, this is kind of a great year to start. That first year of realignment is always the most interesting one. You look at them, like I said, those returns you got coming back, but you also add in Jordan Ham from Wilson Prep, who had 120 some tackles, 24 sacks. Then you throw in, you're adding in the best wide receiver coming back for Cleveland and Ruffin, D'Angelo Ruffin Jr. I think that this is the year that the Comets really have to turn it up. If you're going to become a powerhouse type of program, this is a year where I think you have to go deep in the playoffs. And I think the biggest thing, I think no matter what happens as far as the playoffs, I think you have to have a great showing as far as during the regular season and win your conference. Cleveland's lost a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Cleveland as well coming up soon. But you have all the marbles and the chips coming into it, and now you have to really produce. This is the biggest problem that you have when you have a bunch of talent, is that now there are expectations. You have all this talent coming in, plus the talent that you return. There's not really a time that you can think of that would be better for them to win. I mean, they're in the tough 7A. I wouldn't be, disappointed with if they make a run to the state title, or if they get, 4th or 5th round, because when you go back and look, Clayton has not been to, the Eastern Regionals since that 2021 COVID shortened season in the spring, when they lost to Cleveland. So I think for them, the biggest thing is they have to, I think they have to understand that there's going to be some expectations. I think their schedule is a lot easier than it has been in the past. Not saying that, Southern Nash or Wilson Prep or any of those teams are easy, but, it's a lot easier than some of the Grimsleys and some of the other things they've had in the past. So I think for them, you have to go ahead and, if you're going to become a program that's going to be, a really great program and one of the powerhouses in the state, this is the year that you have to kind of make your stamp. I think, there's only 2 titles that you can win for football. There's no Christmas tournament or anything like for basketball. There's the state title and there's your conference title. And I think that they have to win at least one of those. I would say your conference title is for sure, something that you have to do. Like I said, Cleveland was losing a lot. You've got a lot coming in. This is the best time to kind of, stop that line of dominance they've had where they've won 7 straight conference titles and try to get you a conference title. And then I think that the playoffs, anything can happen in the playoffs. 7A has a lot of good teams. Grimsley is the returning champs from last year's 4A. You have Richmond Senior, who they lost to a couple of years ago. You've got Cardinal Gibbons, who they lost to last year. Cardinal Gibbons 2 years ago, and then Richmond Senior last year. So I think for Clayton, now is the time to kind of show and prove. I will say, though, they have a bright future regardless. I love they've got Jaden Jones coming in from Riverwood, and they've got Kalen Rogers coming in from Eastern Wayne Middle. I think both of those guys, having them not only for this year, but going forward for the future, I think they have a very bright future. But I think this is the year that you kind of have to start making that stamp of being a consistently dominant program. All right, I went over about 10 seconds there, so let's go on to topic 2. All right, now we got topic 2 coming in here. Now we're talking about Cleveland. I said I was going to talk about Cleveland earlier. Now it's time. The fact of the matter is, even Coach Riley has acknowledged that there's a lot of uncertainty going on around the program right now. But he said, he told our guy Randy Caps at WJG Sports that, man, he's excited about that. Usually Cleveland, I think they're used to being, the hunted. And I think they still are going to kind of be the hunted. I don't think Clayton's going to take this lightly. Fuquay, any of the teams that's in that conference that have been losing to them in the past. But I do think that there are people around who do feel like, is there a drop-off that could be on the way? Now, the problem with that is, what does a down year or a drop-off look like for Cleveland? When you look at this type of team, their worst season in program history was an 8-5 season where they went to the 3rd round of the state playoffs. The 2nd round of the state playoffs. And then they followed that next year with a 12-2 season where they go to the 4th round. So what does a down year look like for them? 7 straight conference titles. They've been playing since, I believe, 2011 for football, and they've got 7 straight, along with a few others that they had before then. I think really the biggest part of it is, you look at it, you have two wide receivers transfer out that coincide with you losing Jackson Bird. But I think one of the problems that you have is when you look at high school sports, I was going to say football, but just sports in general, is that maybe not even high school, but you can even look at college. But there's not always a justified or valid reason or a reason that's explainable for when teams transfer. So, I mean, when these guys are transferring out, But I do think we look at it, okay, you have Jackson Bird leave, and that creates uncertainty at the QB position, which is the most important position. And I think in 7A, it's just like 7A plays a lot more of a pro style type of game. I don't think you can win 7A without a really good quarterback, and Owen Hobart is stepping into that role. His coach is really excited about him, and he says that he's going to fall. He told Randy Capps that he's going to fall in the line. He's going to continue the tradition of Cleveland quarterbacks. This is the way. All right, I love that. It seems like the Orange Cap isn't thinking that this is going to be a down year. He's not talking like that. He seems to be excited to remind people about history. I mean, the history is there. He's 125-20 in his seasons of leading the Rams. So I think there is right to be uncertain, because I think, even though Jackson had to come in and replace somebody like Skyler, I think, Jackson, 50 touchdowns on JV in 1 year. He was highly lauded coming into high school. So I think that's what gives people uncertainty. And then you look at it, Malachi Thomas leaves, D'Angelo Ruffin leaves. I think that's the only thing that's uncertain. I mean, when you look at this team coming back, you got Cam Melvin in the trenches. You got Daniel Lugo. You've got Josh Booth. You've got Jalen King. They've got plenty of talent coming in. And the fact of the matter is, Cleveland middle school has ran the county for many years. And the 1 year that, since I've been here, that they didn't win it, Swift Creek won it. And you look at it, Swift Creek feeds right into Cleveland. So they have guys who are accustomed to winning. They know what winning football looks like. They live it and they breathe it on Polenta Road. So I don't know what a down year looks like, but I am interested to see and follow what do we get here. I do think they have a schedule that is favorable for them, where I think the least amount of games I could see them winning right now in the regular season is 7. That's worst case scenario. The biggest thing is can they continue to run the rivalry within the town? I think if they're able to pull it off this year, I think it'd be very hard for you to look and say, when is Cleveland going to have a down year if they don't lose it this year? Because, honestly, Clayton has a lot coming back. They have a lot more talent up top. So I don't know what a down year looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if they went 10-0 in the regular season and continued their winning streak. I wouldn't be surprised by anything. I would be surprised if they had a losing season. That would be my only surprise. But I'm over my time, so let's move on. All right, guys. So now we move on to topic 3, which is Aycock. Is Aycock rebuilding or reloading? First of all, I want to clap it up there for that 2025 class at Aycock. That was the class that really, I think, changed the program around. Specifically, you had Antoine Grantham, Jasani Williams, Ricky Elliott, Zamir McLaren, Jaden Best. Those 5 guys were instrumental, I think, in really changing what the program was. The program, if you look on Max Preps, has a below 500 record in their time in Max Preps. But last 3 years, you look at it, they're 28, and they finished out with 28 and I think 10, 28 and around that way. So you look at it, 28 and 6, I think it was 28 and 6, excuse me. So you finish out, a team. This is a senior class who just won so many games for you, and now not only to add to losing this big senior class who has really turned the program around, won the first conference championship in over 40 years. They helped that 2023 class get that. But now you look at it also, you lose somebody like Jeremy Johnson, who was going to be your best returning tackler coming back, as well as he could have really helped you on offense, and he was one of your better returners as well. So you put those together, losing your senior class plus losing a top end guy like Jeremy Johnson, and it's going to leave you thinking, well, where is this program going? What are we going to see this year? Is it rebuild or is it reload? When you look at it, though, one of the things I note in my column a lot is that in the Max Preps history, Aycock's JV had never had a winning season, but since Zeitlos got there and made that conscious decision to leave all of his freshmen on JV his first year, the varsity team goes 2-8. JV wins 7-2, and their JV has not had a losing season since Zeitlos got there. And then, for this 2026 class, this is the last class that has won the Wayne County Middle School Championship. That was the last class that did it. They ran through the county that year, and all those guys are now seniors. So now it's going to be really interesting to see how do they carry it. You look at it and you say, well, you lose all of that, what do you have left? Well, you got a starting quarterback coming back with Sid. Sydney Lancaster's coming back. He's your leading passer coming back. You've got a few other guys that you're looking at. Jameson Steele, he's been a guy who has played a little bit on both sides of the ball, but has made his really good mark on defense with 51 tackles, 3 sacks. And then also Marshawn McCullen coming back, who had a great year last year. He had 66 tackles and a pick last year to go along with leading the team with 9 sacks. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where do we go from here. I think the other layer of the issue that Aycock is going to have is the fact of the conference is much difficult than it has been in the past. When I look at Eastern North Carolina, there are really 3 to 4 counties I look at and I say consistently they always play really good football. Duplin, Edgecombe, and Craven, Nash. Those counties have done football really well over the last 10 to 15 years. And it's kind of a program. So now losing you out, South Johnston and West Johnston and East Wake, swapping those programs out and even losing Triple S, I forgot about Triple S. So now you have Northern Nash, Southern Nash, Rocky Mount coming in to go with already Rocky Mount Wilson Hunt and Fike. Fike and Wilson Hunt were pretty much, the most storied programs that were in their previous conference. Now you add in Northern Nash, who went to the state championship in 2022. You add in Southern Nash, who went to the state championship, I believe, in 2019. You add in Rocky Mountain, who went to 2 back-to-back state championships in 2015 and 2016. I don't know exactly if that's a really good fit. I think one of the things that was great for Aycock was changing conferences and getting away from, Pitt County, who has a lot more resources, and then a Craven County team in New Bern. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, can they make some noise and continue showing that the program is a program and not just one good class. I think Zeitler can get it done, though. He's had a really good start to his tenure there. I'm way over time now. Let's go to the next topic. All right, guys. Now for topic 4, we're talking about the new blood here coming in, ALA Johnston. Now, they're not necessarily a new school or a new program, but this is going to be their first year. They're going to be eligible for the playoffs in the NCHSAA. Last year they went 7-3, but were not eligible for the playoffs because they didn't have a conference. But now that they're in a conference, they're eligible for one, and because of how young their school is, they didn't lose anybody from graduation. So pretty much they bring back majority, if not all, of that team coming back. So anytime you have, a team like that, it's going to be really tough for a lot of other teams, especially they're only a 2A team. I look at 2A, and there's not a lot of powerhouses there. Now, of course, there is one really big powerhouse in the East, one of those Edgecombe County teams I was talking about, the boys in purple and gold down there in Tarboro. I don't think that, ALA Johnston can win a state championship or can go to a state championship because, yeah, there's Tarboro there, but 2A is very winnable. You could potentially get to an Eastern Regional. You could potentially get third or fourth round. I think all those are very much attainable for a program like that. Now, one of the things is I've been to their game. I've been to at least one of their games the last 2 years, so I've seen the program kind of grow. I like what Coach Blackburn is doing over there. Now, the thing that you look at, they've got Ian Wanda coming back, their top passer, who had 1,486 passing yards plus 19 TDs. They've got 2,000-yard rushers coming back as Samir Ray and Anthony Jimenez. They've got 3 players with over 70 tackles in Elijah Fulton, DeMar Williams, and Hilar Trahan, who Trahan also had 5 sacks as well coming back. So they've got majority of that. Like I said, that majority of that team is coming back. And in football, continuity is the most important thing. Being able to have coaching staffs throughout a time, being able to get your young players into the system and being productive in your system, that can really change where your program can go. Now, the one thing is you look at your conference. So your conference last year, between the 5 teams that you have, Bunn, Roanoke Rapids, Wake Prep, Wake Prep. I lost the other 2 right now at this moment. Lewisburg and still can't remember the last one. But between those 5 teams, they're 21-30 last year. 21-30. So they've got a big chance where they can. Nash Central is up. You've got a big chance there where you're returning most of your guys. You're coming off of 7-3 season. You have actually the top win total from last year between all of your teams. So there's a really great opportunity where in your first year as a program that you can go ahead and win a conference title and make a deep playoff run. That's big time for your program. Now, the one issue though that you have with that, they played 2 of those teams that are in their conference that were not so great. And Wake Prep, who was 4-6 last year, they lost to them 27-14. And then you played Roanoke Rapids, who last year was 5-5, and they lost to them 51-15. So obviously, the conference is weak, but having those 2 losses, it does make you think, are they going to be able to come in and dominate it enough where they're going to be able to get a conference title? I think that's a really interesting storyline. But, if they can get a conference title, I think in their first year, go to the 3rd or 4th round playoffs, I think that's a really great story. I mean, storylines aren't always, they don't always work out the way we want them to or the way that we think they will. So I'm just interested to see how does that go for them. They've got a lot of promise. I think for them it's just now being able to live up and live up to that hype. I'm going to finish up my time a little bit early. I got 25 seconds left. I'm going to toss it on to topic number 5 since I've already went over my time and a couple other topics. All right, last topic here. We're coming up here. We're talking about the Eastern Wayne Warriors. Topic number 5. Can they continue to build on their historic run from last year? You look at last year, they go to the 3rd round of the state playoffs, first time since 2014. So that's first time in 10 years, that you're looking at where they can make that deep of a playoff run. Now, last year, not only did they have a winning record, but you win 10 games. That's not something they had done since 2014. Now, the next thing that you look at is, can they have 2 consecutive years of 10 wins? Because when you look at it, that's something they haven't been able to do since 2013 and 2014. The program throughout has had some winning seasons, including they're going for they're looking for their 5th consecutive winning season in a row. They've had some losing seasons before then. They had some winning seasons, so they've kind of been back and forth between, as the pendulum is tilted. And they were in that same conference with Aycock, where I think it was kind of tough for you to win, going against the Pitt County schools and a school like New Bern for a long time, and especially once they had lost so many students. I think it was going to be very hard for them to, as they dropped down. They were a 2A school playing in a league with 3A and 4A schools. So I think now that they finally have gotten into a league that's pretty solid. I think it's not an easy league to win it all. I mean, because you got an Edgecombe County team in Southwest Edgecombe. It's a team that one of the teams that were able to beat Eastern Wayne last year. You got West Craven. That's once again a Craven County school. West Craven is always going to be tough. They're well coached. And then you throw in Washington. They always have a ton of athletes, so you never know what you're getting from them on a night-to-night basis. Same thing with North Pitt. That's a Pitt County school. And then you get North Johnston, who I think is still going to be very solid. They got Caleb Pone. They've got a couple guys who still can make some noise for them. So they've got, plenty of opposition to potentially getting to 10 wins. But, you think about it, just like I said with Aycock losing the 2025 class, that 2025 class was the ones who had, a winning season all the way through, because they did have a couple of those guys who did start right from freshmen. So losing those guys. But I think they have so much coming back as well. You also look at what they've had success in the middle school with, Eastern Wayne has won the last two middle school championships as far as the county. They won the last two, as well as they were always really good. I mean, 26 they lost in the championship to Norwayne. 27 class, I think they were third or fourth. But regardless, you got a lot coming in to go with that 2026 class that has already proven that they can really be game changers. You talk about somebody like Isaiah Oates, who's, he's a guy who, he's your leading passer, your leading rusher returning, one of your top tacklers. He's a guy who I think is going to be primed to have a really big senior season. I see him working out a lot. That's always great. We can see kids really putting in the time and work to their craft. He had 2166 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, ran for 645 yards and 9 touchdowns, 85 tackles. And then you talk about it, he's also returning his leading receiver in Charlie Thomas, who had 31 catches at 529 yards and 9 touchdowns. And then you bring back your leading pass rusher in Coriante Williams, who had 6 sacks last season. I forgot to mention Oates had 3 interceptions as well. So you throw in some exciting sophomores from last year like Sincere Battle, Levi Evans, and you got to think they have a chance to go ahead and win that conference. As I said, I don't think it'll be easy. I think, I could see them finishing anywhere between 4th to 1st. That's a really tough conference that every night is going to be a toss-up game. But I think there is a lot to be excited about on New Hope Road, going into it. And I'm interested to see how it works out. I think there's going to be a lot of good football that's being played over there on New Hope, as I just said. So there we go. 2, 1, boom. 5 minutes. Stay on top of the time that time. All right, that was my time. Kai's 5. That's my 5 topics, and I'm sticking with them. I thank you so much for tuning in and for watching. I just want to always give this disclaimer that there's no hate or no anything that's trying to be disseminated. I'm always just trying to give the fans a interesting news outlet to come through, as well as just create a lot of conversation. You can check in here on this podcast every Friday, as well as the column that'll go with it, where my thoughts are fully fleshed out. I've had a chance to really just sit down and write them. Now, of course, if you're interested in advertising here with WJG Sports, feel free to reach out to me on my email. It's right here on the screen. This is a small business and a small business venture. We're just trying to help the kids out and promote the community. So if you're interested in advertising here on this podcast, on our website, on our YouTube channel, through any of our basketball events that we have, feel free to reach out at wjgsports@gmail.com. We get over, our YouTube alone averages over 20,000 views a month. Now, new thing I'm starting here that will be going on starting next week is top 5 plays. So those scrimmages that you're in, if you make a really nice play, feel free to send it through. We've got our You can check on any of our social medias, and they will have a form there for you to sign and fill out. You can send us your best clips. We're gonna have our top 5 players at the end next time. And then also top 5 performances. We'll start that the week after, once everyone has played their first game. If you have a big time performance and you want to let us know, go ahead and send us in the Google Docs, on the Google form, what the highlights were and everything like that, and be able to get yourself recognized on here as well. Also, too, another venture that I've kind of started to do, not just for football, not just for basketball, but also for any sports, is get seen with WJG Sports. All right, it's right here on the screen. All you have to do is to get your highlights posted, film a minute of your highlights in 1080p, fill out the Google form, and I'll do the rest. The service is free and open to all sports. We'll include a social media post on one of our new prospect pages on Instagram and X. So you can follow us at WJG Sports Instagram, of course. We'll be collaborating with our new pages, but we also have WJG Sports FB, WJG Sports BB, and WJG Sports Prospects as well for our sports that are not basketball or football. So any of those will work. I see a lot of times these different sites posting up kids, charging them an arm and a leg, and then kids really don't get nothing but clout from it. So I'm trying to just give the kids a free outlet here to get the highlights posted, and try to build a platform that college coaches can follow. I think one of the things that as reevaluating my my coverage was, I think in the last few years I haven't done quite as great of a job of showing off the kids, the great talents that's around individually, and focusing more on game highlights. So now I'm going to try to get back to making it easy for you guys to assist me and making sure that everyone gets a fair chance to be seen and covered. So feel free to send those highlights. Now, of course, keep up with us. Like I just told you, the IGs, but also we're on Twitter with WJG Sports. You can follow me personally at Kai from WJG. You can also follow at WJG Prospects as well. On YouTube, of course, you can follow us at We Journal Great Sports or WJG Sports. You type it in, you'll see us. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. On Facebook, we're WJG Sports, and on Twitter, we're at WJG Sports. Not Twitter, TikTok, we're at WJG Sports. So feel free to follow along. We appreciate your support. I look forward to see you again next week. Feel free to leave a comment if there's something that you would like for me to talk about. I've got a nice show already planned out, but feel free to send in questions. I'll answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you for watching. See you soon.